It was a breezy Thursday morning at Jefferson Middle School in Birmingham, Alabama. The kind of morning where the sunlight hits the parking lot just right, casting long shadows from the yellow school buses as they groaned to a stop. Students spilled out in waves, some laughing, some dragging their feet, backpacks bouncing and phones already in hand. It was loud, messy, and full of life, but not for everyone. 13-year-old Trinity Hayes sat quietly near the flagpole, wheels locked in place. She wasn't in the rush. She never was. While others raced to find their friends, Trinity watched. She was used to being part of the background, part of the scenery that people walked past without seeing. Trinity was one of only 3 students at Jefferson who used a wheelchair. Born with a condition that affected her spine, she'd spent her entire life learning how to move through a world built for people who walked. But even with that, she had something special, a quiet resilience, a spark behind her eyes. In class, her answers were always thoughtful. Her laugh could soften even the harshest teacher. Still, there were those who only saw the chair. Camden Brooks was one of them, 8th grade linebacker, tall, smug, and the kind of kid whose last name was on plaques around the school. Camden didn't say anything cruel, not in ways you could report. He didn't need to. It was the smirks, the side eyes, the little moments that told Trinity she didn't belong in his version of the world. That morning, as Trinity neared the front ramp, her path was blocked. Camden, and behind him, 2 other boys, Hunter and Mike. No greetings, no warnings. Just 3 kids standing in front of her, like security at a club she wasn't welcome in. Hunter leaned down and tapped the rim of her chair. "You ever think about adding some nitro boosters to this thing?" he chuckled. Trinity stayed silent. Her fingers tensed around her wheels. Camden stepped forward with that same condescending grin. "Let's clear a path," he said. But instead of moving aside, he grabbed the front of her chair and tilted it back. Just enough, Trinity fell. Her chair tipped. Her books scattered. Her body hit the pavement with a dull thud that seemed to echo through the front entrance. For a second, everything froze. And then the laughter started. Some kids turned away. Some covered their mouths. But no one moved. No one helped until one voice cut through it all. And that's when everything started to change. Trinity Hayes wasn't the type of girl who made noise in class or ran for student council. She didn't have 1,000 followers on social media. And she didn't show up in TikToks or group selfies by the lockers. But what she had, what no one could take away, was her quiet strength. The kind that doesn't shout. The kind that builds, over time, brick by brick, beneath the surface. Trinity was born with a condition called spina bifida. From her earliest days, there were hospitals, braces, long hours of therapy. But she never let that define her. Not once. She rolled through life with grace, her wheelchair more like a partner than a burden. She knew how to fix the brakes when they squeaked. She knew how to glide over cracked sidewalks. She knew how to fall and how to get back up. But that didn't mean it didn't hurt. Jefferson Middle wasn't cruel, not on the surface. The posters in the hallway talked about kindness. The assemblies mentioned words like inclusion and community. But those were just words when the halls told a different story. Kids moved aside for Trinity, but they didn't invite her in. Teachers praised her essays, but didn't always see when she was excluded at lunch. She was there, but invisible. Camden. Brooks made sure of that. His smirks, his whispers, the way he'd mimic the squeak of her wheels when she rolled into class late. None of it loud enough to get him in trouble. Just enough to make her feel small, less than, like she didn't belong. And the worst part? Nobody stopped him. Not the teachers, not the other students, not the hallway monitors who always seemed to show up a beat too late. They saw, but they didn't see. They looked, but they didn't look. That morning when Trinity hit the ground, she didn't scream. She didn't cry. Her backpack had spilled open, her elbow was scraped, and her heart was pounding. But her voice, still, silent. She stared at the sky above her and whispered something under her breath. No one heard it. No one even leaned in to ask. Except one girl. From the crowd, someone finally moved, a girl named Amia Cross, and the moment her shoes hit the pavement and her eyes locked onto Camden's smug grin, the entire energy of that morning shifted. What came next wasn't about pity. It was about fire. Amia Cross wasn't the loudest voice in the room. She didn't run the pep rallies or wear headbands with glittery slogans. She wasn't on the honor roll, didn't sit in the front row, and wasn't the type most teachers remembered on the first week of school. But beneath that quiet exterior burned something fierce. That morning, she'd just stepped off bus 12, earbuds in, hoodie up, the usual routine. Until she saw it, saw the chair tip, saw the fall, heard the laughter, and saw Camden slap palms, with his boys like they'd just won a game. Something inside her snapped. Before she even knew what she was doing, Amia was moving. Fast. Through the crowd. Not caring who she bumped. Not caring how loud her heart was thudding in her ears, she dropped to her knees beside Trinity. "You okay?" Trinity gave a small nod, her face tight. Her elbow was scraped raw. Her backpack dangled off one shoulder like a defeated flag. Amia checked her over, then stood. "Turned! Hey!" she called, voice sharp, cutting through the noise like a blade. Camden paused mid-laugh. "You think that's funny?" he scoffed, stepping forward. "Mind your business." Amia didn't flinch. She straightened her back and met his eyes. She wasn't tall, but in that moment she might as well have been 10 feet. "It is my business." A few heads turned. The crowd shifted. Some students were watching now, not with their usual apathy, but with curiosity. A fight? A scene? No. Something different. Camden smirked. "What are you going to do? Lecture me? Be her little babysitter?" Amia ignored him. Instead, she turned back to Trinity, helped her into the chair, brushed the dirt off her shoulder. The hallway monitor finally showed up, lanyard bouncing, asking what had happened. But no one said a word. The boys slipped into the building. The crowd thinned. The moment passed, or so it seemed. Because Amia wasn't done. She walked into homeroom, dropped her backpack, and went straight to Miss Carter's desk. "I want to sign up for the Unity Challenge this afternoon," she said, her voice calm. The teacher looked up, surprised. "That's great, Amia. It's a group event. We'll draw names." "No," Amia replied, firm. "I want Camden Brooks on my team." Miss Carter blinked. "Are you sure?" Amia nodded slowly. "Positive." And just like that, a fire lit under the school's carefully polished surface. Because by the time the Unity Challenge began, nothing would be the same again. By noon, the heat had thickened over Jefferson Middle's back field. The kind of warmth that makes plastic cones, wilt, and sneakers stick to the grass. Teachers moved quickly, setting up relay stations, balance beams, and ropes for the Unity Challenge, a statewide program designed to promote inclusion and teamwork. It had always been a feel-good event, the kind that looked good in newsletters and PTA photos. But this year, it felt different. The students buzzed with nervous energy. Music blasted from a speaker near the bleachers. Teams were being announced over a scratchy loudspeaker, names pulled from a bucket by Coach Ramirez and Miss Carter. But not Amia's team. She'd made sure of that. Through quiet persuasion and a little help from Coach Ramirez, she had orchestrated the perfect group. Camden, Hunter, and Mike, Jefferson's smug trio, were all on one team. Her team. Red shirts, matching headbands, arms crossed, clearly not amused. Camden squinted as he saw her walking toward them, clipboard in hand. "You've got to be kidding me," he muttered. Amia didn't blink. "Let's get one thing straight. Today's challenge is about cooperation, but I want to make it interesting." Camden folded his arms. "How?" she smirked. Final events, a timed obstacle relay. Winning team gets to choose someone for the principal's leadership lunch next week. Losers, cafeteria cleanup duty for a whole week. Hunter groaned. Mike cursed under his breath. Camden's eyes narrowed. Deal. The games began. At first, it was the usual chaos. Ball tosses, trust falls, low-stakes drama, teachers cheering half-heartedly, students pretending to care. But the tension started. Building the moment the obstacle relay was announced. Sprinting, climbing, balance beams, and one twist. The final leg required a wheelchair push. One team member in the chair holding the baton, another pushing. Camden rolled his eyes. "This is a joke, right?" Amia turned to him. "You're pushing her." "Huh?" She nodded toward the field's edge. Trinity was there, waiting, wearing a navy blue shirt, her elbow wrapped in a bandage, calm, unshaken. Camden scoffed. "She's the final runner?" Amia nodded. "Rules. Say one teammate has to ride, the other has to push." For once, Camden didn't have a comeback. He just stared. The crowd started murmuring. A few phones came out. Teachers leaned forward. Coach Ramirez raised the whistle to his lips. "On your mark." Camden still looked stunned. Trinity rolled herself into place and extended the baton. With a single look. Not angry, not afraid, just ready. Get set. The moment hung in the air. Then, tweet, the relay was on. And for the first time in his life, Camden Brooks wasn't running from something. He was racing toward a lesson he didn't know he needed. Camden took off like he was chasing a trophy. Long legs pounding the turf, teeth gritted, ego driving, every stride. He sprinted past the cones, leaped the hurdles, tagged Amia, who flew over the beam like it was nothing. Mike fumbled slightly, but managed to hand off the baton before Camden reached the final leg. Then, the moment. The wheelchair. Station. Trinity was already there, parked and poised, baton in hand, eyes unreadable. Camden jogged up, winded, a sheen of sweat on his forehead. He hesitated. Just for a second. Then grabbed the handles of the chair. "Hold on," he muttered. Trinity didn't answer. She simply extended the baton and placed it in his hand. He started pushing. Fast. Too fast. The chair jolted over a bump, nearly tipping. "Slow down," Trinity said flatly. "You're not driving a lawnmower." Camden grunted, adjusted, tried again. This time with a little more control. The course wasn't smooth. It curved. It sloped. The cones were tighter than they looked. Camden's arms burned. He'd never realized how much effort it took to keep the chair steady, how every bump traveled straight into his wrists, how every tilt meant Trinity had to shift her balance just to stay upright. At one point, she leaned to the left and said quietly, "Ease up. You're listing." He adjusted again, swallowing his pride. The crowd was silent now. Not out of boredom, but awe. Something was shifting. This wasn't a humiliation. It was a lesson in humility. And for once, Camden was listening. The final stretch came into view. The finish line marked by 2 orange flags and a group of students chanting. Amia's voice rang out. "Let's go, Trinity!" She raised the baton. In one hand, her posture straight, eyes locked on the line ahead. Camden pushed with all he had left. They crossed together. The silence was deafening. Then, applause. Not the kind that fills a gym with noise. The kind that fills a moment with meaning. Slow, sure, and real. Teachers clapped, students followed. Even a few who had laughed earlier now looked at Trinity like they'd never truly seen her before. She didn't raise her hand in victory. She didn't even smile. She just sat there, breathing hard, holding the baton like a torch. Camden stood behind her, hands still on the grips, too stunned to speak. He wasn't smirking. He wasn't mocking. He was just quiet. And for Camden Brooks, silence said more than any speech ever could. The next morning, the gym filled with the usual shuffle of sneakers and murmurs. It was time for Jefferson Middle's monthly character assembly, a routine event most students used as a break from class. Teachers lined the walls, students slouched in bleachers, and Principal Gaines stepped up to the mic with a familiar sigh. But something was different this time. "Before we wrap up," he said, clearing his throat, "two students have something they'd like to share." A hush fell. From the side of the gym, Amia appeared. Beside her, Trinity rolled forward, head high. They moved together, calm and unbothered by the eyes watching them. Amia took the mic first. "Most of you saw what happened the other day," she began. "Some of you laughed. Some of you turned away. And some of you did nothing. But here's the thing." She paused. "Trinity didn't fall because she's in a wheelchair. She fell because someone decided it was okay to make her feel small." The room froze. "We talk about inclusion a lot here," Amia continued. "We have posters. We hold events. But none of that matters if we stay silent when it really counts." She turned, handed the mic to Trinity. Trinity's voice was softer, but every word landed. "My name is Trinity Hayes. I've been in this chair my whole life, and most days I don't think twice about it. But yesterday, I was reminded of how some people still see me." She looked out over the crowd, steady. "Weak. A joke. A target." Her voice cracked, just slightly. "But what they didn't see was how many hours I've spent in therapy, or how my mom works 2 jobs to keep me rolling, or how I've learned to get back up by myself." She took a breath. "What they saw was a girl in a chair. What I want you to see is someone who got back up." The silence afterward was thick, respectful, then, slowly, applause. It started from the teachers, then the students. No pity, no forced cheer, just recognition. Later that day, Camden walked the halls alone. No posse, no laughter, just him and his thoughts. He didn't expect to find Amia and Trinity by the library sharing quiet. Laughs over a book. He hesitated, considered walking away. But then he walked up. I didn't mean for it to go that far," he said, eyes fixed on the carpet. "I was just messing around. I didn't think she'd—" Amia looked up. "You didn't think?" she said plainly. "That's the only part that matters." Camden turned to Trinity. "I'm sorry. For real. I was being a jerk." Trinity studied him, her face unreadable. "I forgive you," she said, "but I don't need your sorry. I need you to do better." Camden nodded. "Okay." He turned to leave, then paused. "If you ever need help fixing that wheel, I'm decent with tools." Trinity shrugged. "We'll see." By Friday, the air in the school felt different. Doors held open, smiles that weren't forced. A hallway monitor who actually showed up on time. It wasn't magic, but it was a start. Spring came fast in Birmingham. With it came testing, the talent showcase, and the closing of another school year. But this year felt heavier, more meaningful. Amia approached Trinity one afternoon. "We should perform something," she said. Trinity raised a brow. "Like what?" "Spoken word," Amia grinned. "That poem about the sky you wrote." "That was for me," Trinity said quietly. "Exactly," Amia replied. "But someone else might need it too." For 2 weeks they worked. After school, in the library, under the magnolia tree. They wrote about invisibility, about dignity, about how voices don't have to shout to shake a room. The day of the talent show. The gym packed with families and friends. Phones out, parents whispering, teachers adjusting the mic. "Next up," the host called, "Amia Cross and Trinity Hayes." They rolled out together. Amia began. "They told me quiet girls don't start revolutions." Trinity followed. "But I've watched thunder roll in on wheels." Their voices weaved back and forth. "I've been the punchline, the question mark. Now I am the period at the end of your assumptions." The gym didn't move, didn't blink. Then, thunderous applause. Trinity's mother wiped tears. Principal Gaines looked away, blinking hard. Even Camden, seated with his little brother, just nodded slowly. "Yeah," he whispered. "That was cool." By the time summer arrived, Jefferson had changed. Trinity moved on to Washington High, found her voice in a poetry club, performed her piece at an open mic, made a junior cry with her words. Back at Jefferson, Amia led the new Student Diversity Council, hosted forums, helped paint a mural above the lockers. It showed two girls, one standing, one seated, facing forward, bold, above. Them, the words, "Respect doesn't ask permission," no plaque, no names, just truth. And even years later, when the mural had faded and the students had changed, the story lived on. Because when Trinity was knocked down, someone stood up. And together they showed everyone what real strength looks like. Sometimes it rolls, sometimes it speaks, and sometimes it rises.